Most people believe success is about adding more habits, more routines, more strategies, and more motivation. But psychology tells a different story. Real transformation often begins not with what you add to your life, but with what you remove. Many people work hard, stay busy, and still feel stuck. Not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they are unknowingly practicing habits that silently destroy progress from the inside. These habits feel normal, some even feel productive, but beneath the surface, they drain mental energy, weaken discipline, and keep you trapped in cycles of frustration. If you want real growth, inner peace, and long-term success, these habits must end. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. This is not motivational talk. This is psychological reality. The habits you tolerate shape the life you experience, and the mind repeats what it practices. Quit these 10 habits now if you want to change your life. Habit 1. Waiting for motivation. One of the most destructive habits is waiting to feel motivated before taking action. Psychology clearly shows that motivation is not a reliable starting point. Motivation is an emotional state, and emotional states are temporary. They rise and fall based on sleep, stress, environment, and past experiences. People who wait for motivation stay stuck because they let feelings control behavior. Successful individuals operate in reverse. They take action first, and motivation follows action. This is called behavioral activation. When you move, the brain responds with energy, clarity, and confidence. Waiting for motivation teaches your brain that comfort comes before effort. Over time, this weakens self-discipline. You begin to associate progress with mood instead of commitment. Life becomes inconsistent because your actions depend on how you feel. Quit waiting to feel ready. Read even when you are tired. Work even when you feel unmotivated. Train your brain to act without emotional permission. This single shift rewires your identity from someone who waits to someone who moves. Habit 2. Constantly seeking approval. The need for approval is a psychological cage. When your decisions depend on how others perceive you, you give away control of your life. This habit often develops early through conditioning. Praise teaches us what behavior is acceptable, and criticism teaches us what to avoid. Over time, this creates external validation dependence. People trapped in this habit constantly adjust themselves to fit expectations. They say yes when they want to say no. They hide opinions. They avoid risks because failure might attract judgment. Psychologically, this creates anxiety, resentment, and low self-worth. Your brain learns that safety comes from being liked, not from being authentic. This blocks growth because success requires standing alone at times. It requires disappointing people. It requires being misunderstood. Quit shaping your life around other people's comfort. Approval does not equal respect. In fact, the more you chase approval, the less others value you. Self-respect comes from alignment with your values, not applause. Habit 3. Overthinking everything. Overthinking feels intelligent, but it is often fear disguised as analysis. The brain tries to predict every outcome to avoid discomfort. This creates mental loops where decisions are delayed and energy is wasted. Psychology calls this rumination. It increases anxiety, reduces problem-solving ability, and keeps the nervous system in a constant state of tension. Overthinkers are rarely lazy. They are mentally exhausted from thinking instead of doing. The mind creates endless what-if scenarios, but none of them lead to clarity. Action does. Movement provides feedback. Feedback builds confidence. Quit replaying conversations. Quit imagining worst-case scenarios. Set a decision limit. Decide quickly on small things. Train your brain to trust action more than thought. Clarity is a result of movement, not mental debate. Habit 4. Living in the past. The past can become a psychological prison. Regret, guilt, and nostalgia keep the mind anchored to experiences that no longer exist. While reflection can be useful, living in the past creates emotional paralysis. The brain does not distinguish between real and imagined experiences. When you constantly replay past failures or hurts, your nervous system reacts as if the threat is still present. This keeps you in survival mode, making growth difficult. Some people live in regret. Others live in nostalgia. Both are forms of avoidance. They prevent you from fully engaging with the present moment, where change actually happens. Quit defining yourself by who you were. You are not your mistakes. You are not your past decisions. The present moment is the only place where power exists. Release what cannot be changed so energy can flow toward what can. Habit 5. Escaping discomfort. Comfort addiction is one of the most socially accepted habits, yet it silently destroys potential. The brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But growth requires discomfort. Every skill, every transformation, every improvement begins with unease. When you avoid discomfort, you train your brain to associate challenge with danger. This increases fear and decreases resilience. Over time, even small challenges feel overwhelming. Psychologically, discomfort builds tolerance. Each time you face it, your nervous system adapts. Confidence grows not from success, but from surviving discomfort and realizing you can handle it. Quit avoiding hard conversations. Quit escaping boredom with distractions. Quit choosing easy paths that lead nowhere. Comfort feels safe, but it keeps you small. Discomfort is the doorway to expansion. Habit 6. Comparing yourself to others. Comparison is a habit that steals peace and distorts reality. The brain is wired to compare, but modern life amplifies this instinct beyond healthy limits. Social media shows curated highlights, not full stories. When you compare your reality to someone else's highlight reel, you always lose. Psychologically, comparison activates feelings of inadequacy and envy. These emotions reduce motivation and increase self-doubt. Instead of inspiring growth, comparison often leads to self-criticism. Your path is unique. Your timing is different. Measuring your progress against someone else's journey creates unnecessary pressure and discouragement. Quit measuring your worth through others' achievements. Measure progress against who you were yesterday. Growth becomes sustainable when it is internal, not competitive. Habit 7. Saying yes to everything. Saying yes too often is not kindness. It is self-neglect. This habit usually comes from fear of conflict or desire for approval. But psychologically, it leads to burnout, resentment, and loss of identity. Every yes is a no to something else. When you say yes to everyone, you say no to your goals, your rest, and your mental health. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion and a sense of being trapped. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary for psychological health. The brain needs clarity, not constant obligation. Quit overcommitting. Learn to say no without guilt. Protect your time and energy. The quality of your life improves when your boundaries improve. Habit 8. Negative self-talk. The voice in your head shapes your reality. Repeated thoughts become beliefs, and beliefs become behavior. Negative self-talk may feel harmless, but it programs the brain for failure. Psychology shows that the brain believes what it hears repeatedly, especially when it comes from itself. Statements like, "I am not good enough," or "I always fail," become self-fulfilling prophecies. This habit weakens confidence, increases anxiety, and limits risk-taking. You begin to sabotage opportunities because your identity does not match success. Quit speaking to yourself like an enemy. Replace judgment with observation. You do not need blind positivity, but you do need fairness. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you want to see grow. Avoiding responsibility, blaming circumstances, people, or luck feels comforting in the short term, but it destroys power in the long term. Responsibility is not about guilt, it is about control. When you avoid responsibility, you teach your brain that outcomes are outside your influence. This creates learned helplessness, a psychological state where effort feels pointless. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing where you have influence and choosing to act within it. Quit blaming the world. Quit waiting for conditions to change. Responsibility gives you power. The moment you take ownership, options appear. Habit 10. Consuming without creating. Modern life encourages constant consumption. Content, entertainment, information, opinions. While consumption feels productive, it often replaces creation. Psychologically, creation builds confidence and meaning. Consumption without action creates mental clutter and passivity. The brain becomes overstimulated but underutilized. You begin to know a lot but do little. This creates frustration and self-doubt. Knowledge without application becomes mental noise. Quit consuming endlessly. Start creating. Write, build, practice, express. Creation turns ideas into identity. It transforms information into experience. Your life does not change because of what you know. It changes because of what you stop doing consistently. These habits are not dramatic or obvious, which is why they are so dangerous. They quietly shape your thoughts, your behavior, and your future. Quitting these habits is not easy. The brain resists change, but awareness is the first step toward freedom. Each habit you remove creates space for clarity, strength, and growth. Success is not about becoming someone new. It is about removing what no longer serves who you are becoming. Quit these habits now. Your future self depends on it.